Howdy, and welcome to Brandi's Book Stack. Today I'll be talking about the books that I read in the month of September, the books I'm currently reading, and then the books that I plan to read in the month of October. So starting off, the first book that I read in the month of September was The Castle of Otranto, commonly known as the first Gothic novel. This takes place in, I believe it's a fictional country in here, and you have a character, this sort of mad king, who is, his son is unexpectedly killed by a giant knight's helmet falling on him, out of nowhere, out of the sky. We come to find out his family is kind of cursed. It's hinted out throughout the story. There's a lot of kind of haunted house tropes that are in here, like a figure walking out of a painting, and the clanks and clangs in the dungeon, that kind of thing. And this mad king decides he wants to marry this woman who was intended to be his son's wife, and even though he's still married. And it's kind of about the adventures that ensue. It's not a very long novel, and some of it is just plain weird that goes on in here. But it's entertaining, just really entertaining, even though it is very weird. And you do have to keep in mind the age of the writing. You're talking over a couple of hundred years ago. You kind of have to expect that it'll be a little different from our sensibilities. I really did enjoy this. If you're looking for something a little bit on the spooky side for like Halloween time, this would be a good one to check out. And it's a quick read. The next book that I read, I did not enjoy as much. By the way, I'd say maybe 4 out of 5 stars for this one. The next one is The Iliad by Homer. And I know there'll be a lot of people out there going, who the hell do you think you are saying The Iliad is terrible? But I did not enjoy it, not one whit. And that surprised me because I really loved The Odyssey. I thought The Odyssey was so brilliant, and I got it translation by the same person, by Robert Fagles, who in The Odyssey, I just think it's so brilliant. But The Iliad, I just didn't jive with it at all. So why? Well, first of all, The Iliad is, in essence, a war novel. And I don't typically enjoy war novels very much. I think life has enough sadness and darkness in it that we don't really need to add to it by reading about it in our leisure time. And most of the Iliad is all about war, about battles, and there's a lot of repetition. Joe got killed by George, and the spear ran up through his guts, out through his eyeball, and the darkness passed before his eyes. You hear a lot about that, and I said, Joe and George, but the names are always something kind of difficult to pronounce for someone who's not used to a lot of Greek mythology. And it gets really boring and really repetitive. It's almost like the begats in the Bible after a while, at least for me. And there's not a lot of women in this book, certainly not a lot of strong women. Women in this book are typically slaves that are, literally considered trophies. Women are named prizes in this book. And there's one very touching scene with Hector and his wife Andromache. I can't remember exactly how it's pronounced. But he's watching her with his young son, and he's sort of foreboding that, if Troy falls, she will be carried away as a slave. His son will be killed. And that's very poetic, and I enjoyed that particular scene. And there's a few in there like that, like Priam coming to beg for his son's body. I think that's a really touching and moving scene as well. But by and large, it's just a lot of battle scenes, and The poetry of the Iliad I didn't think was anywhere near the poetry in the Odyssey. I don't know if Fagles, I don't know if he did this first or the Odyssey first. It felt like maybe this was first and the Odyssey was second, and maybe he got better when he went to do the Odyssey. But it was a real slog for me to get through. So I would give this 2 stars. And I mean, I give the Odyssey 5, so really strange, but that's where it is. That's my take on the Iliad. The next book that I read was Still Glides the Stream by Flora Thompson. This book is incredible. Now, it may not be for everyone. It is very slow moving. If you enjoyed Cranford by Elizabeth Gaskell, I think this might be up your alley. We follow an aged school teacher, kind of a spinster school teacher, as she goes back to the rural town she grew up in. And she just reminisces and tells tales about the people in the town that she grew up in, what her family was like. It also is kind of reminiscent a little bit of Little House on the Prairie. If you like those books growing up, it's almost like a more adult version of that. Except in this novel, it's less novelistic. It really is like someone just telling you reminiscences, not so much like a coherent plot with, beginning, middle, end. It's just a series of reminiscences. I really enjoy that, especially if it's done well, and this is done very well. I know that Flora Thompson wrote a really popular book called Lark Rise to Candleford, and I've ordered it because I really want to read it as well. And in that one, it is nonfiction. She's writing about her own childhood, and this, it is fiction, but it's written in such a realistic way. It really feels like these people were real. I have to believe that Flora maybe was inspired by some people she really knew, because it really feels real. The people are flawed, but in endearing ways. You just fall in love with the town that she visits. So I give this 5 out of 5 stars. It's very calming if you suffer from anxiety like I do sometimes. This is a great book to calm anxiety because it's very calming and soothing. And like I said, it just feels like you're talking to your grandmother or something. Really enjoyed that one. Okay, and the last book I read this month was Ian Pearce, The Immaculate Deception. This one I found disappointing. I was really looking forward to reading this. It had been recommended by YouTuber Gina Stainer, and normally anything she has recommended I have wholeheartedly enjoyed. This was kind of an exception. I was looking forward to it because it's about a series of sort of theft mysteries that involve the art world. And I thought that sounded really fun, and a nice escapist sort of novel, but the plot had some holes that I had a difficult time reconciling. And I'll give one example. There was a part in this book where the main character, Flavia, is blackmailed by a powerful political figure. And where I'm sorry, I said that backwards. Where the main character blackmailed a powerful political figure, and he asks her, are you the only one that has this information? And she says yes. And then off she goes. And we were supposed to consider the matter resolved. And I felt like it was very unrealistic. If you had a powerful political person and you try to blackmail them and they know you're the only one that knows the information, what's to keep them from killing you instead of paying you money? I thought that was a weak part in the plot. And there were some other little plot inconsistencies, and it was just sort of written in a plotting and an unclear style. Several times I had to flip back a couple pages and go, okay, now what's happening again? I mean, I could get there, but it just wasn't super clear as I was going through. I did really love the characters. I loved the discussion about the paintings in this book. I thought that was super interesting, and I liked that angle on a mystery story. the rest of the elements just didn't quite gel for me. So I'd say this is about a 3 out of 5 stars. I'd probably give it a pass, but it did what it was supposed to do. I mean, there was a mystery. It was solved in the end, or resolved, I guess I should say. So if these elements just sound really interesting to you, you might go ahead and give it a shot. And just didn't quite gel for me. All right, so those are the books that I read in September. I didn't get to a lot of them. I work for the government, and our end of fiscal year is in September, so it means my work is really busy, and I don't get a chance to read as much as I would like, but I'm hoping to catch up on that a little in October. I did get into some other novels. So one, I have started Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert, and I'm about a third-ish of the way through this book. And I won't talk about it because I'll save that for my, hopefully, October wrap-up. I have gotten a little bit into the world of Jeeves. I don't know if any of you face this problem, but whenever I read a short story collection, it's really hard for me to keep going with it. Not because I'm not enjoying the short stories, but just because it's so easy to find a stopping place that you can walk away from. In a novel, you can't do that because you're not going to find out how it ends. But with short stories, you find out how it ends multiple times, and it's just easier to walk away. And I'm kind of doing that a little bit with the world of Jeeves. I'm on like the 4th story in the collection, but I am enjoying this very much. And I'll talk more about it when I do actually finish the book, but I may plod through this one for a little bit. The other book that I have started, because I enjoyed Tough Times Never Last, but Tough People Do, by Robert Schuller, I decided I would go back to the OG of the Power of Positive Thinking movement. And I found this very old copy of The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. And I'm about not quite halfway done with it. So hopefully we'll have that to talk about in October as well. And then finally, I did get a book from the library. I didn't bring it in here. I should have. But and that is Natsume's Book of Friends Volume 2. I reviewed Volume 1 in one of my earlier videos. It's a really charming set of stories about a young man who ends up having sort of an interaction with yokai, which are kind of a combination of demon and spirit, ghost, you might call it. And his grandmother had imprisoned all these yokai in a book, and he's trying to set all the yokai free. So I'm continuing on in that series because it's cute and it's fun. He has a little yokai demon companion that has made its residence, if you will, a beckoning cat figure. So he's this cute little beckoning cat that follows him around everywhere. And then, of course, I have the spooky, not scary books I indicated. I've picked up Lolly Willows, and I've started reading that one. I think I might reach for the Rural Doll stories that I picked up from the last video. And I'll be just kind of working my way through some of those as we enter into the spooky Halloween season. So let me know what you're reading and what you're enjoying right now. Anything that you find particularly fun for fall. And we'll talk to you later. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.